Today, let's turn back the clock and revisit the 25 most iconic toys of the 60s. Barbie, Mattel, 1959. Barbie is a crucial cultural artifact reflecting changing views on femininity in post-war American society. Created by Mattel co-founder Ruth Handler and named after her daughter, Barbie debuted in 1959 and quickly gained popularity in the 60s. Barbie's major departure from traditional dolls was her adult figure, representing glamour and aspiration. She allowed young girls to imagine a future with many career options. Moving beyond the simple mothering roles promoted by traditional baby dolls, Barbie was inspired by the German adult doll Bild Lilly. Initially, Barbie was marketed as a teen fashion model, with luxurious wardrobes and accessories designed by Charlotte Johnson, who was inspired by high-end European brands. Barbie's success wasn't just in the doll itself, but in the business strategy that encouraged accessory purchases and collecting. Elliot Handler admitted the strategy aimed to get customers to buy the doll and then continually purchase accompanying clothes and accessories. The message that women had choices was reinforced by Barbie being able to become a pilot, doctor, or even president simply by changing outfit. However, Barbie also sparked controversy. Her focus on looks and accessories, like the perpetually 100-pound scale, included with the Slumber Party Barbie set in 1965, ignited lasting debates about body image and materialism. Still, for many women, Barbie was an early feminist symbol, a pioneer showing the way out of the kitchen. Hot Wheels, Mattel, 1968. Hot Wheels were introduced by Mattel co-founder Elliot Handler on May 18, 1968, driven by the simple idea of speed model cars. Handler got the idea after watching his son play with Matchbox cars, a brand focused on realistic models, and wanted a line with more style and impressive speed. To achieve this, Mattel hired talent from outside the toy industry, including car designer Harry Bentley Bradley, from General Motors and rocket system engineer Jack Ryan. The goal was to create a miniature car that could accelerate and glide as smoothly as a real hot rod. Hot Wheels emphasized hot rod culture with exaggerated features like wide tires and fiery paint, setting them apart from the realism of Matchbox. The first lineup, known as the original Sweet 16, featured 16 custom-designed cars, notably the deep blue custom Camaro and other American muscle cars like the Corvette, Firebird, and Mustang. These cars were specifically designed to run smoothly and quickly on Mattel's signature orange plastic tracks. Thanks to a low-friction wheel design using Delrin axles and torsion bar suspension, they could glide at incredible speeds, living up to the name Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels was an instant success, selling over 16 million units in the first year and causing a huge stir in the die-cast toy car industry. One of the earliest models, the Twin Mill, was so popular, it was later built into a fully functioning, full-size car in 2001. G.I. Joe, Hasbro, 1964. Barbie's dominance in the doll market in the early 60s created a gap for a male equivalent. Stanley Weston came up with the idea for military figures and brought it to Don Levine, creative director at Hasbro. To avoid the word dosh, which was seen as feminine, Levine coined the groundbreaking term action figure to market the product, a phrase that changed the toy industry forever. G.I. Joe, short for Government-Issued Joe, launched in 1964 and immediately became a massive hit, selling over 16 million units by the end of the year. To keep the revolutionary idea secret before launch, Hasbro used the codename Robot. The original G.I. Joe figures were 12 inches tall and represented the four main branches of the U.S. military: Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps. With 21 flexible joints, a realistic design, and innovative features like hair and hands that could grasp objects by the late 60s, G.I. Joe strongly appealed to boys. Joe's success was further cemented by the Cold War context. However, as the U.S. escalated the Vietnam War, the popularity of war-related toys sharply declined. In 1966, protesters held signs asking, "Toy Fair" or "Warfare" in New York. This forced Hasbro to rebrand G.I. Joe as an adventurer in 1970. After a brief failure with the 8-inch Super Joe version in the late 70s, Joe made a spectacular return in 1982, benefiting from the rise of 3.75-inch action figures like those in Star Wars, solidifying its status as an action toy icon. Operation, Milton Bradley, 1964. Operation is a game of physical skill that demands dexterity and hand-eye coordination. Invented by John Spinelli in 1964, who sold the rights to Marvin Glass for just $500, the game was initially manufactured by Milton Bradley, now owned by Hasbro. The objective is to remove humorously labeled body parts, like wrenched ankle or Charlie horse, from the ailing figure Sam, without letting the surgical tweezers touch the metal edges. If the player makes a mistake, an electric circuit is activated, Sam's nose lights up, and a frightening buzzing with pain sound indicates failure. Operation was an excellent test of fine motor skills and composure. It provided an entertaining educational toy experience coupled with intense suspense. You must remember the feeling of your heart pounding as the metal tweezers trembled close to the edge of the hole, and that dreaded buzzing sound of failure. Although the game seems simple, it taught children about focus and the need for muscle control, especially when trying to remove tiny pieces like the Adam's apple or bread basket. Light Bright, Hasbro, 1967. Light Bright, introduced by Hasbro in 1967, was a toy that allowed children to color with light. Invented by Bert Meyer, Dalia Verbicas, and Joseph Burg, Light Bright consisted of a light box and many small, colorful plastic pegs. Children would insert these colored pegs into a front board, often overlaid with a pre-printed black paper template or their own design. Light from the internal bulb would shine through the colored pegs, creating a brilliant, sparkling, illuminated image. This toy was praised for its creative and educational value, encouraging artistic expression and developing fine motor skills. It usually came with 16 pre-printed picture sheets for children to follow. One of the most classic memories for Light Bright players is the sheer frustration of being engrossed in a picture, accidentally shaking the box and spilling all the pegs out, forcing them to start over. Light Bright has become such a nostalgic icon that Time magazine honored it as one of the top 100 toys of all time, and it was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame in 2022. Like many toys that used a light source, while not as dangerous as other heat-based sets, Light Bright still used a hot bulb and electrical wires, a small but noteworthy risk compared to today's safety standards. Do you remember any of these toys that used to scare you, but you just couldn't stop playing with? Share your memory in the comments below. Etch a Sketch, Ohio Art Company, 1960. Yara Sketch is a mechanical drawing toy that hit the U.S. market on July 12, 1960, quickly becoming one of the decade's most beloved toys. Initially named L'écran magique, the magic screen, by French inventor André Cassagnès, it was renamed when introduced in the U.S. by the Ohio Art Company. The toy features a thick red plastic frame and a gray screen with two white knobs at the bottom. Users control an internal stylus that moves aluminum powder on the back of the screen, creating a displayed line drawing. The left knob controls horizontal movement, while the right controls vertical movement, allowing users to create complex drawings, though drawing smooth diagonals or curves was always a major challenge. This skill required subtle hand-eye coordination and intense focus. Etch a Sketch was an immediate success, selling over 600,000 units in less than 5 months at the end of 1960. However, the fun was often abruptly cut short when the player accidentally shook the frame, wiping the masterpiece clean and forcing them to start from scratch. Its mechanical nature and reliance on user dexterity have helped Etch a Sketch remain an enduring icon, rare in today's age of electronic toys. Twister, Milton Bradley, 1966. Twister, first produced by Milton Bradley in 1966, was a breakthrough and controversial game of physical skill. The game requires players to spin a spinner to decide where they must place their hand or foot on colored circles on a large mat spread on the floor. Twister became instantly huge after actress Eva Gabor played it with Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show on May 3, 1966. The televised appearance transformed the game from an ordinary product into an immediate cultural sensation. However, the physical closeness required between players caused significant controversy at the time. Some competitors and critics attacked Twister, accusing Milton Bradley of selling sex in a box because players had to put their bodies into awkward and close positions. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, the game was a massive success and is still produced today by Hasbro. Battleship, Milton Bradley, 1967. Battleship is a classic strategy and positional guessing game where two players try to sink all of the opponent's ships. Although the game originated as a pen and paper game around the time after World War I, Milton Bradley introduced the physical plastic and peg version in 1967. The version most people remember. The game consists of two foldable plastic boards, one representing the player's fleet, the other to record the opponent's shots, and small white and red pegs. Players secretly arrange their warships on a coordinate grid and take turns calling out coordinates to fire at the opponent's fleet. If a hit is scored, the opponent must announce it. The goal is to use logic, deduction, and a bit of luck to locate all the ships. Battleship was an excellent exercise in strategy, reasoning, and spatial thinking, teaching children about coordinates and probability in a visual way. The game was later modernized electronically, but the original plastic version remains a classic icon, loved for its simplicity and the tension of the strategic standoff. "You sunk my battleship" is one of the most famous toy lines of the decade. Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Marx 1964. Rock'em Sock'em Robots is a two-player action fighting toy released by the Marx Toy Company in 1964. Designed by the famous toy design firm Marvin Glass and Associates, the game features two boxing robots, Red Rocker and Blue Bomber. Players control their robots using joysticks, moving the robots and throwing punches. The goal is to punch the opponent's jaw hard enough to make the robot's head pop off its shoulders, winning the match. This game quickly became extremely popular in the United States, selling hundreds of thousands of units. Originally, the design idea was based on arcade boxing games using human figures. However, following the death of a real boxer, the idea was changed to robots to avoid controversy. This change saved the game, helping it become a minor cultural phenomenon, and its original design remained almost unchanged for over a decade. Rock'em Sock'em Robots is a symbol of healthy competition and reflexes. It remains a beloved and nostalgic toy, recalling tense battles with siblings or friends, complete with the characteristic rattling sound of the controllers and the satisfying pop when the robot head flew off. Spirograph, Kenner US 1966. Spirograph is a geometric drawing set that fascinated children in the 60s with its ability to create complex mathematical curves, known as hypotrochoids and epitrochoids. Developed by British engineer Dennis Fisher based on his work with Meccano pieces, Spirograph was introduced to the US market by Kenner Products in 1966. The set included interlocking plastic gears and rings with teeth. Users placed a pen into holes on the gear and spun them around the larger rings to create intricate and beautiful patterns. This toy quickly attracted attention for its uniqueness and ability to produce perfect designs. Its widespread popularity was evident when it was honored as the 1967 Toy of the Year. It provided not only fun but also an educational tool, introducing children to principles of geometry and mathematics. However, early versions of Spirograph held small dangers that would be banned today. The original set came with loose and sharp pins used to hold the drawing paper securely. These pins could be swallowed by small children or misused, for instance. Some people use them as earrings for dolls. Furthermore, other children accidentally scratched the soft surface of the wooden table underneath the paper due to the pressure of the pencil while drawing. Modern Spirograph sets have had to replace these dangerous pins with safer adhesive or putty. Still with us on this nostalgic journey? Drop a yes in the comments so we know you're enjoying it. Easy Bake Oven, Kenner, 1963. Launched by Kenner Products in 1963, the Easy Bake Oven was every aspiring young chef's dream, allowing children to bake their own tiny cakes. What made this toy oven iconic was its unique heat source. Initially, it used two 100-watt incandescent light bulbs. This original design was inspired by the pretzel ovens used by street vendors in New York, an idea suggested by Kenner's Norman Shapiro. The first oven came in pale yellow or turquoise, mimicking the style of actual kitchen ovens of the time. And by 1969, Kenner released the premier model in the then-fashionable avocado green. The Easy Bake Oven was a huge commercial success, selling 500,000 units in its first year. The set came with packets of cake mix and small pans, teaching young users basic cooking skills, reinforcing the expected role of the homemaker at the time. After being mixed with water, the batter was pushed into the oven through one slot, and once baked, pushed out through another slot. Although it brought great joy, this oven used real light bulbs and metal parts that could get hot, causing burns if touched. Interestingly, in 1968, Kenner's mascot, the Goonie Bird, appeared in Easy Bake Oven commercials. Goonie Bird was later recycled by Jim Henson into the character Little Bird, a smaller version of a Big Bird on Sesame Street. Due to the scarcity of incandescent bulbs, the versions of the oven using bulbs were finally discontinued in 2011, replaced by a version using a dedicated heating element. Chatty Cathy, Mattel, 1960. Chatty Cathy is another symbol of toy innovation in the 60s, introduced by Mattel in 1960. Ruth and Elliot Handler developed Chatty Cathy, making her the first successful talking doll on the market. Although dolls had existed for centuries, integrating simple record technology inside the doll, activated by pulling a string, was a technological breakthrough at the time. Upon launch, Chatty Cathy could say 11 different phrases, including the classic line, "I love you." Her popularity grew fast. By 1963, the number of phrases had expanded to 18. The doll came in various hairstyles and colors, and in 1963, the hairstyle was changed to 2 long pigtails tied high. Chatty Cathy's iconic voice was provided by June Foray, a famous voice actress. Chatty Cathy quickly became the second most popular doll of the 60s, second only to Barbie. This success encouraged Mattel to develop variations like Chatty Baby and Tiny Chatty Baby, along with talking puppets and stuffed animals that also use the same pull string mechanism. However, Chatty Cathy also reflected the traditional gender standards of the era. The doll's programmed phrases often revolved around domesticity and caretaking, such as, "Let's play house." Notably, even the name Chatty Cathy can carry a slightly derogatory connotation, implying women talk too much, a stereotype assigned to young girls when they speak up or express opinions. Metal Jacks. This is a traditional game requiring dexterity and agility. The game involves a player throwing a small ball and picking up the metal jacks in a complex sequence as the ball bounces. While jacks themselves were not dangerous in the sense of exploding or being toxic, these small, sharp-edged metal pieces were a minor hazard and a major household annoyance. My brother once stepped on a jacks barefoot, causing excruciating pain. Moreover, they fall into the category of choking hazards due to their small size and sharp shape, which modern toy safety regulations control extremely strictly. Metal jacks, along with old construction sets with sharp edges like the Erector set, with razor-like metal pieces, are testaments to the differences in toy material standards. Children of the 60s frequently played with toys made of heavy, sharp metal, a rarity in today's age of soft plastic toys. Super Ball, Whammo, 1965. Super Ball, or Super Mini Ball, produced and launched by Whammo in 1965, became one of the company's most famous toys. Unlike ordinary rubber balls, the Super Ball was made from a special synthetic rubber with an astonishingly high bounce. Marketers claimed the ball could bounce 6 times higher than a regular ball, making it an immediate craze. The Super Ball's powerful and unpredictable bounce provided intense excitement, but also created an accident risk. You must remember these balls often bounced off walls, furniture, and sometimes faces, leading to sudden collisions and bruises. The unpredictable chaos of the ball made it thrilling, challenging children to see how high they could throw or catch it. Despite the minor risks, the Super Ball was a childhood essential. Its popularity cemented Whammo's position as a leading manufacturer of action-packed, high-energy toys. Slip and Slide, Whammo. Slip and Slide is a classic Whammo summer product, consisting of a long sheet of plastic laid out on the lawn and sprayed with water from a hose to create a cool, watery slide. The idea was to create high-speed fun and a summer sledding feeling right in the backyard. A perfect entertainment solution for hot days. This toy provided a feeling of extreme exhilaration as children took a running start and slid down it at maximum speed. However, Slip and Slide was also famously known as the source of many bruises, scrapes, and major injuries. If players landed incorrectly, dove headfirst, or slid onto a rough patch of grass, they were sure to feel the pain. You must remember parents quickly tossing this toy out after news reports of a child being seriously injured, even suffering a broken neck from sliding incorrectly. While those safety concerns were real, for children of the 60s, the sensation of backyard speed was worth every scratch and bump. It represented unlimited fun and free-range, adventurous outdoor play. Looking back at these toys, do you feel like childhood back then was riskier, but also more memorable? Clackers, Click-a-Clacks. Clackers, also known as Click-Clacks, are 2 hard plastic balls attached to the ends of a string. Players would swing their arms up and down to make them collide, creating a loud, rhythmic clack-clack sound. Initially, some versions of clackers were made of glass and later of hard acrylic. The safety issue arose when these balls shattered or flew off the string due to hard collision, becoming dangerous projectiles that could cause serious eye injuries or severely bruise knuckles. Many adults who grew up during that time recall having large bruises on their eyes or elbows. Some even remember the glass balls shattering into thousands of pieces. Fanner 50 cap guns. Fanner 50 cap guns were a line of cowboy cap guns that allowed children to load small paper caps into them. These guns often had very realistic designs, making children feel like real cowboys. When the trigger was pulled, the cap would create a loud pop, providing a thrilling and authentic feel during imaginary backyard cowboy battles. While exciting and popular, this toy was not entirely harmless. The loud sound could be irritating, and if not careful, these paper caps could cause minor burns due to the heat generated from the small amount of gunpowder. Many kids also remember skipping the gun and using a hammer or a rock to smash an entire roll of caps onto the ground to create a bigger explosion. Although toy guns have existed for decades, the Fanner 50 and similar cap guns from the 60s were considered too realistic and too loud. Today, strict regulations regarding the realism and sound level of toy guns have caused this type of toy to almost disappear. Metal-tipped archery sets. In the 60s, children were allowed to play with toy archery sets that came with arrows featuring real metal tips. The feeling of playing Robin Hood, Native American, or practicing archery skills was incredibly exciting and adventurous. However, these arrows were fully capable of causing serious injury if shot in the wrong direction, especially toward bystanders. This is completely contrary to modern archery sets, which only use rubber suction cup tips or foam for safety. Even sets with suction cup tips became dangerous when children removed the tips or replaced them with pins. Metal. Tipped archery sets are one of many examples of children at the time being equipped with nearly real toy weapons. Although children quickly learned caution to avoid hurting others, the existence of such toys in an environment without constant supervision is something modern parents would never accept. Creepy crawlers / thingmaker. Mattel, 1964. Creepy crawlers introduced by Mattel in 1964 were part of a larger toy line called Thingmaker. This set allowed children to create their own rubber bugs and creatures, offering endless creative fun. The kit included insect-shaped metal molds and a liquid called Plasti Goop. Children would pour this liquid into the metal mold, then heat the mold on a small electric hot plate oven. This metal surface could heat up to over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, about 150 degrees Celsius, causing severe burns if touched. Besides the burn risk, there was the issue of toxic fumes. The process of heating the plastic goop, which likely contained harmful chemicals. Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. The last toy on this list is the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. This is perhaps the most unimaginable toy by modern standards. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. Although primarily sold in the early 50s, it was the pinnacle of the adventurous science toy trend that extended into the 60s. This kit actually came with samples of radioactive materials, uranium-bearing ores, and a Geiger counter. The lab set sold for $49.50 and included samples of uranium ores like automite, torbernite, uraninite, and carnotite. It was marketed as an educational tool, helping children learn about nuclear energy and physics. For aspiring young scientists, the feeling of being a real scientist working with radiation was undeniable. Today, the inclusion of real uranium ore, radioactive material in a toy, is strictly banned and considered more dangerous than lawn darts. Pure imagination, freedom, and unfiltered joy. If these memories made you smile, don't forget to hit like and share to help us keep these beautiful pieces of the past alive.